Exactly. Opposite. Jai. Okay. We'll sing Jaya Radha Madhava very quickly. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridvaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridvaradari Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tihira Vanachari Jamuna Tihira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. So I thought today is Disappearance Day of Srila Jiva Goswami. I thought I would sing the song Jaya Anilo Premadana, but without the mridanga, it's not so nice. And I know you don't like the Sanskrit so much, so I won't put you through that. But we'll read the verses and we'll read the translation for this bhajan, which Prabhupada suggested that we sing on the disappearance days of great acharyas. And so today being the disappearance day of Srila Jiva Goswami, we'll just read this bhajan and translation. I think, if I'm correct, it's the disappearance day of Srila Jiva Goswami. Did you hear that this morning or anything? Vanitai Prabhu, did you hear if it's the disappearance or appearance day of Srila Jiva Goswami? Oh, okay. I think it's disappearance day. I'm pretty sure it's disappearance day. But yeah, let's say it anyway. He has left us. Okay. So Jay Anilo Premadhana Koruna Prachur Henho Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur. He who brought the treasure of divine love, who is filled with compassion and mercy, where such a personality as Advaita Acharya gone? Next verse. Kaha Mora Swarup Rupa, Kaha Sanatan, Kaha Dasa Raghunatha Patita Pavan. Where my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? 3. Kaha Mora Bate Yuga, Kaha Kaviraj, Eka Kahale Kota Ghele, Gora Nataraj. 3. Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopala Bhatta? Where is Krishna Das Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? Pasane Kutibo Mata Anale Pasibho, Gorange Gunhera Nidhi Kota Gela Pabo. I will smash my head against a rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Gauranga, the reservoir, Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Shri Shri Radharanath ki, Shri Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Gaurahari ki. Sesa bha sanghira sange je koilo bilas, se sangha na paya kanda narotamadas. Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all these devotees in whose association he performed pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. So this is a song of separation. Narottam Das Thakur, he came to this planet in a time where most of the acharyas after the direct disciples, the direct associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had just left the planet. And so here comes Narottam Das Thakur, who is just an abode of love for Krishna. And he comes, and all of these, associates, all of these amazing personalities have just left, just as he comes. And so he's now been reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. He's been, hearing from a Brahmana, Narottam Das Thakur. He's been hearing this Chaitanya Charitamrita. And after some time, he becomes so attracted to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the pastimes. This was when he was a child, a very young child. And eventually, he goes to a river where actually Lord Chaitanya had deposited the full blessings of love of Krishna, of love of God, within this river. There was a kirtan at this river, and Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda were at this river. And Lord Chaitanya actually passed out, screaming the name Narottam, Narottam, and he passed out in ecstatic love. And so, in this whole commotion, Lord Nityananda, he comes and he whispers into Lord Chaitanya's ear, who is this Narottam? He's asking. And so, Lord Chaitanya is coming to consciousness, and he says that, Lord Nityananda is thinking there's no Narottam in our association. And so Lord Chaitanya explains that he will come sometime in the future. And he will be a great saintly person with great love for Krishna. And so he goes to this river where they're doing this kirtan, and he goes to the personality, the personal form of this river. And he speaks to her personally. And he says to her, the Padmavati, he says, I will leave this love of Godhead, this golden pot of love of Godhead, and you will pour it over a personality called Narottam Das Thakur when he comes. And when Narottam Das Thakur comes, the river Padmavati is thinking that she's thinking, how will I know when Narottam comes? And so Lord Gauranga, Lord Mahaprabhu, he says that when Narottam Das enters the river will actually overflow already with his love of God. And so already he is so full of love. But still, you must take this pot and you must pour it over him. My love of God, my full love of God. And so Narottam Das Thakur, he enters into this river and he receives the full blessing of love of God from Lord Chaitanya, and he becomes a madman in love of God. He's rolling, crying on the floor in ecstasy. And so this Narottam Das Thakur, naturally as a great devotee, we search out the association of other great devotees. We always want to take shelter. It's said in the spiritual world that our pride as devotees, everything in spiritual life, you can use it in service to Krishna in some way. You can spiritualize it. And so even pride, it's explained that the way that pride is spiritualized in the spiritual world is that you become proud of having so many masters. The more masters you have, the more proud you are of all these masters. So that's our pride. To have many, many masters, to have many, many authorities above us. And so Narottam Das Thakur is naturally seeking the association of senior devotees, senior Vaishnavas, but there's nobody. And so he's feeling this deep separation from all these personalities, and that's when he writes this song, Jaya Anilo Premadana, and he's singing about these different associates who have left the planet. And so it's full with deep emotion of separation, of longing for the mercy of greater Vaishnavas, greater spiritualists. And so Prabhupada suggested that we would sing the song on the disappearance day of Dvaitacharyas, and that's why I'm somewhat sung it, just recited it, this wonderful bhajan. But that isn't the subject matter of today's class. We'll be reading What is the Difficulty. I'll tie in Jiva Goswami later at the end to say something in glorification of him. But for now, we will read from where we left off. And so we were on pastime 32, October 22, 1972. Radha Damodar Temple, Vrindavan, India. And we left off halfway through where Shrutikirti Prabhu is giving some of his realizations about Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, this is the first memory I've written in almost 10 years Please continue to give me your causeless mercy so I can attempt to do some service. Telling the story at this time gives me a small glimpse of your unlimited compassion for all of us and gives me faith that it can extend to even someone as unworthy as me. During Kartik in 1972, sitting in your room, you stated, "So I came here, and eventually, by Krishna's arrangement, I stayed at this most sanctified place, Radha Damodar. It was here that I began writing. I thought it may be published, or it may not be published. That does not matter. I shall write for purification. That is all." You can see a wonderful mood in Srila Prabhupada. He comes to Radha Damodar and he's writing, as his Guru Maharaj instructed him to write. And he says it's not, maybe it's published, maybe it's not. We can see here, he's not attached to the fruits of his activities. He's just doing it for his purification, because this is the order of his spiritual master. Actually, it was my Guru Maharaj speaking through me, but I was not very expert at writing as he was. Oh, he was a most erudite man, most refined and expert, a gentleman, and a Vaikuntha man. Because I had never written before, there were so many grammatical discrepancies, yet I had to write. The subject matter was so important, so urgent. So I wrote those first 3 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto. All of our philosophy, everything you need to know, is in those first 3 volumes. By Krishna's grace, I managed to collect the money to get them printed, and I took them with me on the boat to New York. I did not go to America empty-handed. I went with a complete philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu written in these rooms, inspired by the Goswamis. That's what is pushing this Krishna consciousness movement. If I've been successful, it's because I've delivered my Guru Maharaj's message intact, without change or deletion. This is parampara. The bona fide Guru is like the postman delivering a message. He does not open the mail and write his own opinion. You may like the message or not, take it up or not. I've done my duty. I have delivered it, and it all began here. Therefore, these Radha Damodar rooms are the hub of the wheel of the spiritual universe. Excerpt from Vrindavan Days by Hayagriva Das. In this year, 2005, I can see your mercy more and more. Your movement continues to spread as thousands more take shelter of you each year. In a Dallas lecture, you said, "So keep the standard as you are keeping. Then things will go automatically. And one day people will understand in the pages of history that this movement was for saving the human society. That day will come. By keeping to the standard you have given, everything is possible. As you said, it is very easy. Chant 16 rounds, follow the regulative principles, and do not give our own opinion. Just deliver the mail. What is the difficulty?" And so here we see Prabhupada. He's just such an amazing scholar. He was such an amazing logician. He was so witty. He was so capable. He had all the abilities to conjure up something, give something, some kind of philosophy, to give his own spin on something. But that's not what he did. He sat in these Radha Damodar temple rooms, the hub of the spiritual universe, it said, at the Radha Damodar temple. And he simply says, "I'm a postman. I just gave the message. I didn't do anything fancy. I didn't do any tricks. I just gave the message." And that was his glory. Some people sometimes, who knew something about the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, they said once to Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, what have you done? You've just copied the writings of the Acharyas, and you've just copied it into your books, into your purports. You've just copied the philosophy." And they were saying it sort of like an insult. And Prabhupada, yes, that's what he did. That's what he did, and that was his glory. And look what it's come to. I mean, we have this amazing temple, the Radhanath temple. which is the hub of Devon. I mean, you look at like Chatsworth, the area around us, and this is really like just like the spiritual world, like just planted, into the city. And I mean, if you go just a little bit outside of the temple perimeters, you see it's not so nice. You see shacks on that side, you see all of this stuff. But by Prabhupada just copying, pasting, places like this have sprouted out up all over the world, in every corner, in every village. Thousands of amazing, exalted personalities have come about. Thousands of people have taken to Gaudiya Vaishnavism just by copy, paste. So, in the Hare Krishna movement, we advocate plagiarism. And so this is our glory, just to take what the acharyas have written, just quote from scripture. Prabhupada said whenever you're giving an argument, whenever you're speaking, you have to quote from scripture. You have to say, this is where this comes from. This isn't just my own philosophy that I've kind of, thought up, This is something that's from scripture. And so yeah, these Radha Damodar temple rooms, this Radha Damodar temple, this is where it all started. Let's continue to pastime 33. This is as good as bathing in the Yamuna. October 21st, 1972. Radha Damodar Temple, Vrindavan, India. During a morning walk along the Yamuna, Srila Prabhupada asked one of us to go get some water. Shyamasundar Prabhu brought him a handful. Srila Prabhupada sprinkled a few drops on his head, and he told us to do the same. This is as good as bathing in the Yamuna, he said. While we were at the place, at Keshi Ghat, Srila Prabhupada warned the devotees not to dive into the Yamuna because of the many large turtles in the water that could possibly cause injury. He was always looking out for our welfare in every way. Yeah, so the Yamuna River, we sang just now, Yamuna Tira Vanachari. So this Yamuna River, this is where Krishna would wander. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. His activities was to wander around the Vrindavan area, and specifically along the river. And so we have a wonderful picture over there of Krishna. He has his hand up like this. His one hand is feeding a cow, and he's just wandering on the river banks of the Yamuna. And yeah, Prabhupada explains that this song, Jaya Radha Madhava, it's the spiritual world. This is what's happening in the spiritual world. It's a very concise summary of the spiritual world. And that's why we sing it in the beginning of class. Let's continue. Pastime 34. You have to chant and hear, that is all. November 7, 1972. Radha Damodar Temple, Vrindavan, India. Devotee. Srila Prabhupada, it is very difficult to control the mind when I chant. It wanders. Srila Prabhupada. So what is controlling of mind? You have to chant, hear, that is all. You have to chant with your tongue. And the sound you hear, what is the question of mind? How many times your disciples went into your room to ask you how to solve a problem? Mostly the problem evaporated as they sat before you. Being in your room, one could feel the transcendental atmosphere, and looking into your eyes, they became peaceful. You cut through our Western mentality with the torchlight of knowledge and mercifully allowed us a place at your lotus feet. Okay. I just realized I didn't say the prayers in the beginning of the class, so I'll just say them now, just to keep in intact with the format of the class that we follow. Andeha umagyantimirandasya gyananjana salakaya chaksurunmilitam jena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakdamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaparakammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Chadvaitam Shavadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paransagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Panchakalpatrupyascha Kripasindubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhakleshmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namne. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paskita Rishdhani. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My apologies for getting the prayers. Alright. 35. The monkey has stolen my shoe. November 11, 1972. Radha Damodar Temple, Vrindavan, India. During this time, Srila Prabhupada stayed in a room on the second floor of the Radha Damodar Temple. I do not remember why he did not stay in his usual two rooms on the ground floor. His rooms on the second floor opened onto the large concrete deck, which formed the roof of his quarters on the first floor in Vrindavan. On the first floor. In Vrindavan, most of the buildings are made of brick and concrete, so the roof is usually a flat, smooth area of concrete that can be used for so many purposes. On the second floor facility, Srila Prabhupada had a sitting room and a separate bedroom. His entourage shared another room. As Srila Prabhupada took his massage on the patio in the front of his sitting room, the sun glistened on his sparkling golden skin, smeared with mustard oil. After his massage, he bathed in the same spot from a brass bucket filled with water that was naturally warmed by the sun. Using his lota and a single bucket of warmed water, he took his bath squatting on the patio in his gamcha. Srila Prabhupada made a point of keeping the maintenance of his body very simple. After taking his bath, he returned to his bedroom and put on fresh clothing I had laid out on his bed. On this particular day, the weather was very hot, so Srila Prabhupada only wore a dhoti and no kurta. A few minutes after he went into his rooms to dress, I heard him shouting. I was still outside on the patio cleaning up. As soon as I heard him shout, I raced into the room. The front door was ajar. I had no idea what was wrong, and although I ran in out of habit, I offered my obeisances. Srila Prabhupada was behind his desk. As I hurriedly sat up and looked toward him, he hurled his ball of tilak towards my head. It was the size of a golf ball, and he threw it with the vigor of a baseball pitcher. It missed my head by inches. I was shocked and frightened. "What is the matter?" I blurted out. "The monkey has stolen my shoe," he said, pointing in my direction. I turned around to see one of Vrindavan's fury pests running out of the room with Srila Prabhupada's sandal in his grasp. The monkeys were prolific in this part of the Dham, and always looking for a bead bag, glasses, or some other valuable items to steal. They used the items to barter for eatables. I was relieved knowing that my Guru Maharaj was tossing the tilak at the monkey rather than me. It was an unusual experience to have a ball of tilak whiz by my head. Fortunately, the spiritual master was an expert marksman. The monkey vaulted to the roof of Srila Prabhupada's sitting room and waited. "This rascal, he's taken my slipper," Srila Prabhupada said. "Get some pere and come outside." I grabbed a few milk sweets from the glass jar above Srila Prabhupada's bookcase and followed my guru outside the door for the upcoming confrontation. Srila Prabhupada brought his cane. The monkey sat on the edge of the roof with the sandal in his mouth and waited for the negotiations to begin. The roof was barely out of reach. At about 80 feet from the ground where we stood, Srila Prabhupada began jumping up and down, swinging his cane over his head to intimidate the monkey. The monkey seemed to enjoy the attention he was getting. He was not threatened or concerned that Srila Prabhupada might get the slipper. The furry creature began waving the shoe and taunting us. Srila Prabhupada continued jumping up and down with his cane over his head, swinging at his foe. He said, "These monkeys are such rascals." The monkey continued taunting us. Now he was making faces at us. This was my first experience in such warfare, and I have to admit, I found it very exhilarating. "Srila Prabhupada," I said, "let me see if I can give him a sweet and get the sandal." "Yes, see if that works," Srila Prabhupada replied. With my fearless leader beside me, I cautiously held the sweet in the air, hoping the monkey would give me the magical slipper in exchange. True to the nature of a monkey, he tried to cheat me. He attempted to snatch the sweet without relinquishing Prabhupada's holy slipper. Again I tried. I held up the sweet and motioned for the shoe. The monkey started to deliver the slipper with one hand and reached out for the sweet with the other. Convinced I was successful, I let down my guard in front of my beloved Guru. I was prematurely proud of my anticipated success. I failed and gave up the sweet. Unfortunately, the menacing monkey did not surrender to the slipper. To my chagrin, I managed to lose 3 sweets to the enemy without getting close to retrieving the lotus slipper. At this point, the monkey began chewing on the heel of the slipper with gusto. He managed to tear some cloth from the heel and put a number of teeth marks in it. Srila Prabhupada was not amused with his egregious demolition. Forget it, he said. He has ruined the shoe. His Divine Grace went back into his room and prepared for lunch. I started to follow him into the room. I looked up and saw the monkey drop the sandal at his feet and run away. I guess he understood it was of no use to him if it was of no use to us. I figured I might as well get the slipper. So I called for Girisha, Hayagriva's son, and asked him to go upstairs to the roof and get Srila Prabhupada's slipper. Girisha was about 10 years old and eager to help us. I watched from below as Girisha headed up for the slipper. Just as he bent over to pick it up, a ruthless gang of monkeys came from nowhere and attacked him. They scared the heck out of him. One monkey started to swing at the young boy. Girisha screamed, "Shoot a Kirti! Shoot a Kirti!" Startled, I looked about and saw a bamboo stick. I threw it to him. As soon as he grabbed the stick and started swinging it, the monkeys hastily retreated. Girisha grabbed the slipper and raced down the stairs with Beast hot on his heels. Girisha gallantly delivered the slipper. I brought the slipper back to Srila Prabhupada because he had worn these slippers for some time and he seemed to be very fond of them. He had no others to choose from, but he favored these. Oh, he had others to choose from, but he favored these. I showed him the torn slipper. Ah, it doesn't look so bad, Srila Prabhupada said. Get some glue and see if you can repair it. I took it back to my room and mended it to the best of my ability. I hurried back to Srila Prabhupada's room with the saved slipper, offered my obeisances, and showed him my handiwork. With a smile on his face and a nod of his head, he said, "That's all right, I can still use them." 2 weeks later, in Hyderabad, staying at the home of Mr. P.T., a very wealthy life member, one day Mr. P.T. noticed Srila Prabhupada's slippers. I explained to him what had happened. I would have loved to get Prabhupada another pair of sandals, he said. Oh, I would love to get Prabhupada another pair of sandals, he said. I told him that was a great idea. He sent his servant to buy a pair of sandals, and when the new sandals were presented to Srila Prabhupada, he accepted them graciously, but later told me, I cannot wear these. They are made of leather. He continued to wear his damaged sandals for weeks until we arrived at another temple. At that time, we bought some sandals. We bought some sandals to Srila Prabhupada, or to Srila Prabhupada's liking, and he released the others. His torn sandals now reside at the home of Kirtiraj Prabhu in Aluchia. They are in a glass case and are held in high esteem by their caretakers. Srila Prabhupada, it is very difficult to describe the immense pleasure I experienced that day as you swatted your cane at the monkey for a few minutes. We were fighting a common foe. In the land of Krsna, I may never again be able to take part in such transcendental pastimes. I will never forget that one special day when for a few minutes you allowed me to participate in the most joyful game in Vrindavan Dham. I pray that the memory of that day is never taken from me. We'll stop there. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shruti Kirti Prabhu ki. So we have about a minute before I'll just make one more comment. So that concludes the Vrindavan pastimes in this book. And this Radha Damodar temple, where all these amazing things happened, where Prabhupada wrote these books, the spiritual hub of the universe, the place of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami. Do you know who founded that temple, or who established it very firmly? It's his disappearance day today. Srila Jiva Goswami. So Srila Jiva Goswami established this, and we can go visit it today. So he's a